guys.
What's up, BB?
I'm just glad to see that the tech is working today.
Yeah.
What a way to start the day off.
The last word was almost not the last word. I was worried this morning that nothing was going to work with the whole Microsoft chaos. How you guys doing?
You know, it's been an interesting morning. To your point, there was a lot of Microsoft chaos. I decided we were either going to have like so many people today because nobody could get any work done, or nobody was going to be here because they had to deal with IT crashes going on.
Well, hey, KP, you're on the road. You're gonna be driving fast today. Is that the plan?
Yeah. So I'm just checking out all my cars here. You know, one of our partners, SnapDocs, that we use for e-hybrid closings, they had an event here at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. So I'm driving. I got 3 cars: GTR Nismo, which is a Nissan. Never even heard of that. The 911. The GT3 Porsche, which this thing's going to be sick, and then a 448 GTB Ferrari. I don't know if you can see all that. So
well, I see you're all Georgia today. You got on your Masters shirt.
I know. I'm in your old hood.
You are.
You know, I didn't plan it this way for you know, for the day to be what it was. What do you call it when a group of people from around the world want to take a Friday off? Cloudstrike.
Dad joke.
Too soon.
Hashtag dad joke.
Love it. Well, KP, we are blessed to have Christy Soukhamneut on with us today. Christy, welcome to The Last Word.
Excited to be here with you guys. I couldn't think of a better way to spend a Friday afternoon.
I'm so happy to have you.
I'm so pumped to see you.
I think it's funny that so obviously you guys both had time at Flagstar, and then Souk is now working for University Federal Credit Union, UFCU, which when I was a freshman at the University of Texas in the Dobie dorm, I walked downstairs and opened my very first checking account without my dad's help. And it was at UFCU, and I still, to this day, since ’94, have that UFCU account. And now Souk's running like all lending over there, so it's pretty cool.
Right.
Kind of fun. Kevin and I can get our hook 'em horns. He's gonna have to come over here and join me for a game this fall.
I mean, you're
I'm definitely
client.
coming down for the Georgia game.
You're a client, KP.
I think the Georgia game might be spoken for, but pick another one and come on.
Well, I'm coming for the Georgia game.
Oh.
By the way, if you guys want to check this out, here, if I can. Here, you guys keep doing your thing. I'm going to get rid of this virtual background, and you guys can see. Let's see. No background. Here we go.
So is anything down there? Are all systems working there, or are they having difficulty today?
So these are not electric vehicles, so they're not affected by the CrowdStrike outage. So these are all manual. Well, they're paddle shifters, but we're on a rain delay actually. So even though CrowdStrike has shut down every system in the world for Microsoft, we have a manual delay as well. So we have lightning in the area. So they have all these cars under here because they were expecting hail even, but that hasn't come through. So now we're just waiting for the lightning and storm to pass, and I get to do my podcast with y'all.
This is awesome. So I know that many folks that were traveling yesterday and today have the blue screens of death all at the airports, 1,400 flights canceled. Encompass has been down. I think it's back up for some. Kevin, before we jumped on, you were saying that you've got some sporadic folks able to use it. I know others aren't at all.
Yeah, we had our IT team just about 2 hours ago put out an alert, follow up from the morning, that we do have people actually able to work on it. So I don't know if that's a credit to our IT team or we just got lucky because we're on the West Coast. I don't really know. But let me see here. Let me read this to you so you guys can see. We are seeing users able to effectively access Encompass, EDA as well as FHA and as well as FHA and Fannie DU. Please note, outage is not showing as resolved, but some users are able to access. So that was as of 2 hours ago. So, just kind of like, how it is when you do a software update, they just kind of like make their way through your system, and, some people are impacted differently than others. So, just thought I'd share that with you. We've got some people working, but I know I can't check in for my flight on Delta. So, Delta, United, and American are down. Fun.
Hey, by the way, don't worry. You don't need to worry about checking in for your flight because it's not going to be taken off.
Yeah, true. Well, hopefully it is by the time we get it.
Lindsay's right. So UKG is down, which for those that don't use UKG, that is a big, it's like Workday, and it's a big HR system. So it's down. A lot of folks have been unable to send wires today. The Fed itself has not been down. We're still able to send wires. I know that some others are, but I know many are not. So there's probably a lot of impact to borrowers today who have everything. Friday's a big day for closing. And as we get close to the end of the month, this is a big time. Everybody wants to be able to pack up their goldfish and everything else and move over the weekend. So there may be some unhappy customers today. So it's a great way to segue into customer experience, which I know is one of the topics we wanted to talk about today. So Brian, how do you handle that?
So, we're FinLocker. We're a consumer-facing tool app, right? Technology, B2B2C. So our client's the lender, but we ultimately serve the consumer. And we're a Microsoft Azure shop. So our platform is built in on the Azure cloud. And so Azure had an outage yesterday in their central region, which is where we kind of roll up to. So we were impacted. Our customers were impacted. Our clients and their customers, the consumers, were impacted. And so, it was a kind of an all hands on deck starting yesterday at about 6 p.m. And so, as soon as we knew there was an outage, we have a protocol for that. And so we monitor, we're in the loop with the Microsoft team on what was going on. And we got to a place somewhere later in the evening when we decided this was going to extend for more than a few hours. And so we put a message out if somebody got to the app that, got to the site that there was an outage. And then we kind of worked in 2-hour cycles over the course of the night. So we had like a 2 a.m. call, a 4 a.m. call, and then a 6 a.m. call. And by the 6 a.m. call, things were already coming back online for us. So for us, we were fortunate that there was minimal impact. Our total outage was, less than a handful of hours. And then based on our kind of analysis, it was very limited impact, but we're not in the middle of a loan manufacturing process either. And so that's a little bit different when you start talking about impacting the closings for someone buying their home and trying to move over the weekend, as an example.
Yeah, or people traveling, right? I mean, that's
oh yeah.
That I worry about KP and the folks there, but I do think about, this is an opportunity for you to set yourself apart in terms of how you treat your customers, and for us, how we treat our members. People expect that there are going to be problems, and I will give the CEO of Cloudstrike, a thumbs up for going on CNBC this morning and taking the punches that were clearly there. If you haven't seen that interview, it's worth downloading and looking at.
I saw him. I had a different show on this morning, and he was on there, and you could tell by his voice that he had been doing this for a while and he had been up overnight. And so, but yeah, I give him a lot of credit for kind of, hitting it head on this morning. I don't think it's going to help him any, but it's good for him that he did that.
I think so too. I think that for us, as we really think about how we have to impact our, any impact to our customers, being the first to make the phone call, picking up and talking to them, and even if you don't yet have a solution, how you handle adversity really will define how the customers feel about you as you continue to move forward. Kevin, what is your team doing? Have they had any impacts, any opportunities to interact with customers?
Well, I haven't heard any disasters, and I've been pretty caught up on email. I know that for the most part, like, just kind of wait long enough, our Encompass system is working. So I haven't heard of any real disruption. So I read to you our internal email that showed we were fixed as of 2 hours ago. I'm sure there are some things here and there that aren't, fast and like what it normally is on a normal day. Paul Lucido, our chief marketing officer, he chimed in the chat down below. So, yeah, I mean, I haven't heard too much, but, you know, I'm also, you know, on an offsite. So, you know, maybe ignorance is bliss for me.
Let's just talk about just in general how we react to customer service issues or any problems that occur during the loan. I know Stratmore has shared a number of times with their customer data that you actually can have a better result and a stronger impact with a consumer if there's actually a problem that you resolve to their satisfaction, right? That person can be far more loyal to you and send more referrals than if the process went perfectly smoothly. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, I think the key is to just keep your composure and your demeanor if you're in a customer facing situation, right? So, you know, if they're highly emotional and charged, and don't let you get charged, right? So, hey, the moving truck's not fun. I can't wait. I got to close. What the hell's going on? You guys suck. You're the worst thing ever. You just water off a duck's back. Just be like, yeah, you know, it's a tough situation. You know, we're working on it, but here's what we're going to do to fix it. And just, you know, if they're at a 10, keep your tone at about a 6 and bring it back down. At the end of it, you know, let them get it out. So just don't react to someone else's emotions, especially if they're the client.
You know,
like politics. It's like my video on Saturday. Don't use your EQ, use your emotional intelligence. Don't let politics work up your emotions. Show that you're smarter than that.
We're going to go there in a minute, by the way. Christy, you bring up a great point with the feedback or the survey results that Stratmore talks about. A big fan of their platform, right? And what Mike Seminary talks about all the time is there's not a single point in time that you should be surveying your customer. Most people logically think I'm going to survey them after they close. Well, there's like all these micro closing opportunities that happen in a loan manufacturing process, and not everybody gets to closing, sadly, and you miss opportunities to learn about your process. And then, Christy, to your point, you may survey something if you have a process that has these, you know, let's just say 5 or 6 points along the process where you're asking for feedback. And if something happens early in that feedback loop that's perceived as negative, and you can remedy it between the final stage of closing, you will certainly impact what that final survey result looks like, right? And so I think it's this last night's event, this ongoing event, and what the CEO of Cloudstrike did, kind of getting out there and communicating is the right thing to do. Communicate early, be transparent, communicate often, and to KP's point, do it with empathy. You know, don't go guns a-blazing. You know, I think you can successfully manage the kind of client experience that way.
I think the taking of responsibility is huge, because oftentimes, we've seen this. You know, Brian, I can remember when we were at a company together where we had a vendor who didn't take responsibility for an outage that they caused, not only that impacted us, but impacted, you know, hundreds of others. And the way that you handle it, I think, really says a lot about whether or not you're going to have a continued business.
Yeah.
I know that particular vendor we opted not to do business with anymore. We replaced them.
Yeah, I mean, they showed their real selves in adversity, right?
Yeah.
Well, what if CrowdStrike does a fantastic job of all that, but then Microsoft's like, yeah, sorry, you're out.
Well, they probably will. They probably will still fire them.
You know, like if you mess up so bad, like you can only smooth over a customer so much. Like, yeah. You're not going to fund your deal for 2 weeks, and you lost your escrow, your escrow deposit. But here, you know, let's try another loan. Yeah, sorry.
Severity makes a big difference. But we're going to make some assumptions here that we're not screwing up that badly, that we have the opportunity to recover.
Yeah, we get to say CrowdStrike moved their cheese. It's not our fault, you know. Yeah, sorry, my flight was canceled on, you know, United. It's not my fault though. It's CrowdStrike. I don't know if that would sit well, but look, we do our best, right? You know, we all manage salespeople and customer facing teammates, and do what you can. Sometimes you're in a no-win situation.
About today, if you happen to partner with a bank that can't send out wires, can you get a cashier's check, right? Can you literally go down to the branches or to somewhere, pick up a cashier's check and take that to a closing attorney's office, or make arrangements for them to be able to go pick up a cashier's check locally, depending on your particular configuration? And if you can't, at least let people know that you've tried these types of options, because letting them know you're thinking outside the box and that you're trying to do to solve their problem really makes a difference. Back to that accountability piece.
For sure. So we made it to Friday, and this is our second edition of the show. Let's kind of rapid fire, just quick thoughts on the week. What caught your attention outside of the Microsoft CrowdStrike? We already beat that thing dead. What caught your attention this week, Christy, that you were kind of focused on from a news perspective in our industry?
Well, the CFPB is making some significant changes, right? And we're starting to see the ramifications of what happened with Chevron and how that's going to impact. You're starting to hear some grumblings around that. You also saw, and I don't know if this was in the last 5 days, but at least in the last 7, you saw what happened with Townstone Mortgage, right? The CFPB appealed that case, and the upper court decided that they are siding with the CFPB, saying that RESPA does apply to pre-applications, which is a huge impact for all of us if that stands. Now, this legal battle is obviously not over, but initially that was the CFPB's take. Then it was overturned by a higher court, and now it's been overturned by yet another higher court, and we're back to kind of the original. And I would encourage everybody to really think about how you market. I mean, we've already had to think about how we market, but to really think about where you are or aren't marketing, what your messaging says, and what people are saying when they are not necessarily being guided by the friendly CMO or other folks within your marketing team. How well are you training them to ensure that we are treating all customers fairly and that there is no bias even prior to the application process? So I think that's something that's really a hot topic right now.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that whole court system kind of like our two-party system? You just really have 2 options. You flip back and forth, A or B, B or A. And so now that Townsend case goes back to the Supreme Court after the Chevron ruling. I mean, it's going to cost a lot of money with, of course, the CFPB. Not endless budget, but they can definitely fight that one. Townsend's going to take it to the Supreme Court back. Say, hey, things have changed. We had this reversal at a higher district court, but the Chevron ruling says government agencies can't really set policy and something like that. So it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. It's obviously a major impact for our industry. For me, the biggest takeaway is that, we've been so data dependent, and, retail sales was actually stronger. Not only, well, it was flat. It's supposed to be negative 0.2%, but it was flat. But then the last 2 months were revised up. So stronger retail sales means a stronger economy, which means rates get worse. But they really didn't. I think the pressure of the CPI being deflationary last week, and with our GDP overall going from, 3% growth to latest estimates 1.5% growth for the second quarter, that pressure, that downward pressure on 10-year yields seems to be greater than even what would normally be a data point. And it would basically say, hey, rates need to get better because we have higher retail sales, and that didn't happen. So there's, rates, just to kind of zoom back out, I mean, rates have been getting better since October. They were at a 5-month low the other day. And last Thursday was the second biggest single-day improvement in rates of the year. So the trend is your friend. I know everyone's talking about September rate cuts. There's a lot of data to come out between then and now, but it seems like it's likely. But, who knows? But again, whether they cut or not, the trend is that rates are getting better overall. Our locks are up. Month to date compared to last month, June, through the first half of the month. and we're a 3-channel lender at PRMG. And then May was actually bigger than June. So I'd like to see if we can get July's blocks to be like May. Maybe you get even more lucky and they're like March. March was our biggest block month. So, again, the trend is your friend. It's the second half of the year, so it's not seasonally, booming time of the year, especially July, right? Like from a funding perspective. The locks are forward looking. So maybe we end the summer with a bang in August, and then you kind of get into your regular cadence where September is kind of weak, and October's great, and November's kind of weak, and December's great. January is weak, and then February kind of, it's a short, shitty, cold month, right? So you can't just like crush it in February. But by then we'll have had a few rate cuts, and things will be looking a little more certain with the election. Stock market will probably know where it wants to be after the Christmas Santa Claus rally. So yeah, we're already planning ahead for 25, and we like where things are going right now.
I think you're right, Kevin. It was interesting to see the home builder sentiment, right? When it came out this week, it's down a little. Home builders are not as stoked about where they are and what it's looking like to sell. You're also seeing housing starts that when we look at the size of construction, the size is going down, which says maybe they're focusing a little bit more on affordability. We're certainly seeing some of that here in the Austin and Central Texas markets, where the McMansions are not as prevalent, and we're seeing more renovations. So I think that's going to play a role into this. Affordability continues to be the topic of conversation.
I'm curious, Christy, and we'll catch KP's opinion on this, but we talk about the trend, right? The rate trend. I talk to loan officers every day, but I'm not in lending, right? I'm serving loan officers in a different capacity. I would characterize the sentiment of loan officers as skewing positive or trending positive, even though the rates themselves may not yet be in a position where it's really moving the needle significantly. I think there's the psychological benefit of a positive trend. I'm seeing that with a lot of loan officers. Are you kind of feeling the same thing in your space?
We are seeing that, and we're certainly seeing that just in general in the market, right? My husband is a loan officer as well, so I get to live this on a day-to-day basis, not only at the office but at home. You just there is some sentiment that says, hey, the market is the market, and we've had this long enough that it has settled in psychologically.
Yeah.
And so I think any of these improvements, while 6 months ago may not have been helpful in terms of optimism, they are today.
So we've got a few minutes left, and this is something that hit me a couple days ago, and it really I was fixated last night watching the end of the convention, right? And this is I'm not making a political statement, and I'm not talking about what side I'm on or not. This has nothing to do with that. What struck me was that there's a lot of people, a lot of voters that may have their ideologies may skew this way, right? But for the business they're in, what may be better for their business may be pointed this way. And I'm curious more than anything how you think people kind of reconcile their personal ideologies with what's best for them in the business they're in, right? Does that make any sense?
But what's interesting is I really don't know anybody that is 100% sold on 100% of the platform of either party, regardless of which side that they generally defer to.
I know a few on both sides.
I really don't know anyone that, they're like, oh, I believe this, and this, but I really think this.
Yeah.
And I think housing is one of those, because there are so many people who want to solve the affordable housing problem, but they have the not in my backyard.
Yeah.
And that definitely fits into two different camps with those sentiments, or who should pay for certain things and how much should we subsidize. So I don't know. I think that we're going to see, and I hear people saying this, they have picked an issue, and that's how they're voting, is they're voting on that issue, and whoever they think is going to be behind them whatever party, you know, if we're talking about the presidential election. or
Darth Vader's joined us.
Hey, I
Luke.
lasted 26 minutes. I'm getting in the Porsche.
Hey, don't touch the brake.
The GT3. Let's go. You guys ready?
Stay off the
Go.
brake.
Hey,
All right.
I'll keep you guys on
KP.
speaker. Cheers.
All gas, no brakes. So yeah, I just it started to hit me that there are plenty. I mean, just our industry alone, obviously, there's an impact based on the results potentially for the industry, probably more than potential, right? But it doesn't mean that everybody in our industry is on one side or the other. And so there's this natural, interesting conflict that I think a lot of voters are going to be wrestling with, you know, when it comes down to November.
I think as an industry, I would encourage everybody to really look at, in every election, not just the presidential, but in every election they have an opportunity to vote in, to look at how the candidates stand on housing, because housing has such a huge impact on the economy overall. You know, I have heard numbers, and they say that 80% of statistics are made up on the spot. So this kind of falls into that category. But I've heard numbers that say every house that closes, you know, has an impact of between $50,000 and $100,000 on the local economy. Because you've got to go to Home Depot and buy temporary shades, and then you go change a light fixture, and then you realize your couch doesn't fit and you got to do something new, right? There's so many downstream impacts to housing, and to not just to new construction, which probably has a significantly larger impact on the economy, but even existing home sales. And we need that to continue to fuel our economy and to fuel productivity in local areas. And, you know, it has an impact on the mom and pop restaurant down the street, because when you are remodeling your kitchen, or when you've just moved and everything you own is packed up in a box, you're going out to eat where you may not have been, or you're spending at least more on going out to eat than you would have if you were just in your regular home, not making that kind of a change. And because of that, you know, we're the ones that have to stand up for that. If this is where you make your living, you really need to know where candidates stand. And maybe you don't agree with them 100% on everything, but how are you voting that's going to impact what happens? How are you looking at affordable housing, if that's an issue that you care about? Now, you know, for me, the military is a big issue. I really care where people stand on the military, particularly who is our president, because that is the person who decides if my son is going to get shot at. So I care a lot about that issue.
Yeah. Yeah. You brought up a good point, a really great point, frankly, that especially this time around, and just focusing on the presidential race, it feels like you almost have to pick an issue. And I think you're right. I think a lot of people are fixated on an issue for them and their family, their business, et cetera. It's going to be fascinating in just watching the ultimate impact on what we do every day to serve, you know, the housing industry.
I would recommend that you know where your leaders stand and where those that are running. You know, here in Austin, we've had the opportunity to be a part of several conversations around affordable housing with the city council and with the mayor, and you know, being able to talk about like what matters and what matters in lending, because you can have the greatest policy in the world, but if it's not supported by where capital can go, how loans can be made, how development loans can be made, you know, how permanent loans get made, it's not going to have the right impact. It's not going to have an outsized impact. Right. And so get involved with that. And particularly at the local level, you hear builders say this all the time, that the regulations in different markets cost them significantly more and delays housing and determines what they can and can't build. So your involvement, again, particularly at the local level, really matters. So I know for me, I have been remiss in some elections to not know those stances and vote for some of what I would consider the smaller offices based on just what I've heard and what my friends think, as opposed to really digging in. And I would say this is an election that there's going to be a lot of issues that come up around housing. Yeah. And you need to know in every single election that you have an opportunity to vote in every single race, where do those candidates stand on the issues that matter to you most? And I hope that one of those issues is housing.
Well, we know that the Mortgage Bankers Association, it does a wonderful job, for our industry in terms of advocacy. There's there's so much information that they accumulate on the MBA website. So I would encourage everyone to spend some time on the MBA website and dig into the kind of the issue papers, the white papers that are out there. And just know, we talked about it last week as well, that it's never been more important to advocate for our industry and for the consumers we serve. And we all have that opportunity to do it in the most meaningful way with our vote here in the fall. Christy, we are at the bottom of the hour. We're, our sponsors only pay for 30 minutes, so just kidding. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you're going to be a regular guest with us here, so I appreciate you being on, and always great to be able to kind of talk industry with you.
Looking forward to it. See you soon. And I hope KP makes it back from his Porsche driving lesson.
It's going to be an epic video, I'm sure, within the next hour that we'll all get to see. So
I am sure. Be on the lookout.
We'll see you guys all next week on The Last Word. See ya.
Bye.